morning, folks. Brian here, Geomagnetic Earth Watch on Friday, May 24, 2024. Hope you're well. I'm trying to get out as much information as I can to everybody. This one I've been trying to get out for quite a while. And that is, where are you going to be getting your food from? Healthy food. Because we're going to be losing a great deal after this year. Starting from this year. We're going to be losing our ability to grow enough food for the world because of the steady increase in violent weather events, alternating from droughts to flash floods, as well as great temperature differentials, sudden freezings, all of which is going to be devastating our crops, as well as increased in ultraviolet sea level radiation, which affects the DNA of plants, not just in humans, but in plants. And I'll show you an example in a moment. So it only takes a single day or night event. It could be a 1 hour event or several to destroy 3 months worth of growing, 3 months of hard work. It could be sudden hail events, destructive winds, one night's freezing. In my area of southern British Columbia, Western Canada, we've suffered some devastating losses of our fruit trees from the last winter's freezing and late freezes. Our peach, apricot, nectarine, cherry, plum trees, for the most parts, did not make it. And when this happens, it takes a few years for a fruit tree to recover, assuming that the following consecutive years are going to be favorable, which they will not as we move forward. So as we go forward with our weakening protective magnetic field, we're going to need more and more of this healthy food to build up our immune system to better protect us. That food which is not going to be available anymore. So I want to talk about the reality of growing your own food. I've been doing it for quite a few years. There once was a man called Christian of Ice Age Farmer, a very admirable man, getting the word out and teaching people to be more self-sufficient, growing your own food. I liked Christian, however, he has disappeared. I believe for the protection of his family, he had to stop talking, and he's not around anymore. I'm going to briefly follow in his footsteps. However, I have to be more realistic about the difficulties in growing your own food, and there are many. First and foremost, you need to have practical skills. You need knowledge. You need the space. You need the time. You need the materials. And later on, equipment for preserving your food. You need to know things about companion planting, pest control, air circulation, protection from the elements, protection from ultraviolet radiation, which many people don't realize, soil health, sources of water, etc. It takes, on average, for most vegetables, 3 months to reach maturity before you can harvest them. Remember, that one-day event can destroy it. If you're not doing it correctly, you'll get nothing. I've watched people scattered carrot seeds in whatever, right? And after 3 months, they go pull the greens out. There's no carrots. They planted them way too close together. You see people will go to the nursery and buy these little cute starter plants, the tomatoes, right? They're so small. Or our first garden, and they plant them 12 inches next to each other. Not understanding and realizing that a tomato plant needs 4 feet distance to expand, to have that air circulation to maintain the health of the plant, and too many roots together would be in competition for the soil nutrients and the water. These are just some examples. Knowledge. Seed saving. This is an important one. So you've heard of that growing zone list? Throw it in the garbage. It's useless. You don't know what zone you're going to be in from one year to the next. That seed you planted from that tomato plant has adapted to your specific environment. You save the seeds from that tomato. It'll be stronger and more resilient for the next year. And like I said, folks, I've been doing this for years. I know the trials, the difficulties, the failures, the successes. But I also know about the amount of ultraviolet radiation coming in, especially in Canada and Northern Canada. And it's only going to get a lot worse. I'll give you an example. I think about 2 summers ago, maybe 3, I planted 89 potato plants, seed potatoes, in 3 different areas of protection. 1, open areas, no protection from the sun. 2, protected by the burlap sack shade cloth. And then 3, as I've shown quite a few times, twin wall polycarbonate panel. This is what you see on your nurseries, greenhouses. If you buy one of those little 8x8 or 6x8 greenhouses, you put it together. This is the material, twin wall polycarbonate panel, which will deflect the ultraviolet rays coming in and protecting your plants. It stops the evaporation of the moisture from the soils, 100%. I've been doing this for years. This is a picture of the potatoes that were grown in the open and underneath the burlap shade cloth. This is DNA damage. The ultraviolet radiation is transmitted down through the stem and into the root system of the vegetables. It's not just surface level burns. I lost almost all of my potato crop. Now, 89 plants, that's maybe 6 months worth of food. I'm going to continue. A lot of people say, well, I can grow it in buckets on my balcony. Sure you can. Here's the reality. Take potatoes, for example. Yeah, you can grow them in a 5-gallon bucket. It needs enough sunlight. It needs the proper balance of soil and compost. If you don't know what you're doing, after 3 months, you pull it out of the bucket, you have nothing. Look at it this way. 1 5-gallon bucket of potatoes will feed a family of 2 or 3 for 1 meal. You're waiting 3 months for 1 meal. If you eat light, you might get 2 days worth. Do the math on how many buckets you're going to need throughout the year. Soil amendment. Where are you going to get your soils from? Soil health. It's a whole long list of things you need to know in order to be successful. I have a couple of greenhouses, a small one. I didn't have the time, or I didn't have the funds to put bubble wrap around my greenhouse to give it better protection. I had a blower here on, set it on temperature thermostat control. We had one bad freezing night, killed everything. I mean everything inside the greenhouse. One night freezing. After 2 to 3 months of growing. So I have to be realistic. Next, you're lucky if you're going to get 3 months of optimal growing time. I'm going to back up a bit. If you're making raised beds, so what I do is I put 3 inches of rigid foam board insulation on the outside of the bed. Then I have my housing tops, right, by whatever design, the polycarbonate panels. That gets me an extra 6 months total of growing time. 3 months before, 3 months after. The objective is to grow as much food as you can during optimal growing seasons and process and either freeze or can for the winters. So this is the next thing. You have to know how to preserve your food. Like water bath canning fruit. Something I do every year. This is my own personal peach fruit cocktail. Mason jars, you can use them lots. The sealing lids on top, you can only use them once. That's it. If you're thinking about doing this long term, in the next 20 or 30 years, you need to calculate how many of these lids that you're going to need while they are available. I'm talking the thousands, if not surpassing 10,000 sealing lids. Do you remember during the pandemic, all of a sudden people started turning their front lawns into gardening, and they think they're going to do canning? The great mason jar and canning lid shortage. Pretty soon, you're not going to find these lids. You're going to be screwed. This is part of your prep stocks. It's not just food and water and other things. It's a skill you need to learn and develop safely, canning, and having that equipment. Water is a different issue. Where are you going to get your water from? So this is something I wanted to get out. Where are you going to get your food from? Now, there's other places that you might not think of. The Asian grocery stores. A different type of food, a different type of vegetable, a different type of fruits, and so on. But that food needs to get here into North America from overseas. And I think that's going to stop pretty soon too. So if you don't have the space, the time, the knowledge, the patience to grow your own food, you might want to seek out those areas in your community or state or province. And during harvest season, you buy as much as you can. You can as much as you can. You freeze as much as you can. I think we still have some time left on the grid. And get it stocked up. I got maybe 1,000 square feet of growing space. If I have a hanging pot basket, that's 1 square feet. I count that. I don't have nowhere near enough room. Blueberries. At the end of the picking season, I'll buy a year's worth of blueberries and freeze them. And other things that I can't grow. These are things you need to consider. Stay away from the garbage in the produce stores, in the grocery stores. You don't know what they've been sprayed with. You don't know how long they've been sitting on the shelf and how long they will last. You don't know how much of the nutrients have already been lost because that little packet of blueberries came all the way from Chile, South America, and so on. The pack of strawberries, when you have to throw half of them out because they're already rotted, coming from Mexico or California, wherever. So that's it for now. I got to get outside and get to my vegetables. Later,